Hey people, welcome back to the channel. This is a story in which Naruto meets Kurama in the land of waves and they have a mutual friendship. In this story Naruto shifts toward his mother's side as a Uzumaki seal master. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave a comment if you want to suggest fanfic. Check the description for credits and support the creator of the story. So let us begin. Chapter 52. Too many Konoha ninja. The dawn of day 5 came. While some teams relaxed and rested themselves, others still struggled to gain the scrolls they needed to advance to the third round. Currently, the teams that were in the base were Team 7, Team 8, Team Yugito, Team Fu, Team Gaara, and the team of Kumo Ninja who tried to take advantage of Team 7. Naruto made his way through the base to where the kitchen was so that he could get some breakfast. Sakura had insisted that she wanted to sleep in for the first time in ages and Sasuke had disappeared, most likely with Kakashi to one of the dojos to train. Team 8, with the exception of Shino, was following Sakura's lead and getting in the first night of good sleep they had in weeks. Naruto figured he would find Sasuke and Kakashi and train after he got some food in his system. Upon arriving at the kitchen, Naruto noticed the two male members of the Taki team and their sensei. At first, he didn't think much of it, as he went on to make breakfast. Sadly he wasn't able to have ramen seeing as Sakura had confiscated it the night before and insisted he eat something healthy, or at least something besides ramen, for once. Naruto was busy enjoying a simple breakfast with some of the rice balls that he had sealed in the scroll, until the mood in the room froze. The three Taki ninjas' attention turned to the doorway of the kitchen, the same scornful look that had tortured Naruto for his life, now on their face, only it wasn't directed towards him. The three Taki ninja picked up their breakfast and made their way out of the kitchen, past their green-haired teammate, who was the focus of their looks. On their way out one of the genin gave her a hard nudge, more like a push, that sent her staggering a few steps. As Fu clenched her fist, her attention was drawn to the blonde in the room looking at her. "What do you want?" she asked angrily. "Can't stand me at all. Think I'm a nuisance who should just disappear like all the others?" What?" asked a now confused Naruto. "Forget it, what would you know? You're just like the rest of them anyways, except for Bug Boy from yesterday, but he just seemed creepy," said Fu. "You mean Shino, don't you?" replied Naruto, causing Fu to raise an eyebrow. "Anyways, I know what you're talking about. The way your team looks at you, hoping you would just vanish so that they wouldn't have to deal with you, hating your very existence. I know it seems impossible, thinking that no one cares for you, only wanting you gone from their lives, impossible that there's never going to be someone who cares about you. And yet, you're stuck wondering why this happened to you. After all, you had no control over what happened, and the people can't seem to understand that you're just a lonely person looking for someone to call a friend." Fu stared in awe at the first person who managed to read her. How?" asked Fu. "Because I know how it feels. I've lived my entire life with the villagers of Konoha hating me, wanting nothing more than for me to cease to exist," said Naruto, placing his hand over his stomach. "I know what you have sealed inside you. It can be either a curse or a blessing, depending on how you look at things. For me, it's a blessing. Sure, life's been hard, but everything I've accomplished up till now, every friend I've made, I feel like I've truly earned." "But how?" asked Fu. "You already have one person, or I guess demon in your case. They aren't what most people think. Try talking to her and you'll be surprised. Otherwise, never give up and do everything in your power to show people who you really are, not what they see you as. And once you form a bond with someone, do everything in your power to keep it going," explained Naruto, flashing Fu his signature grin. "I once had a bond with someone. Shibi, the previous leader of our village," said Fu. Naruto felt like he knew that name from somewhere. "That's right, that's the man Orochimaru killed so that he could get to Sasuke. He was warm and kind, he cared for me and I saw him as a grandfather. But then he was taken by some freak and now his son, Shibuki, the new leader of the village wants nothing to do with me. In fact, I overheard him hoping that I would manage to get myself killed somehow in these exams. Naruto's fists clenched. He already was angry at Orochimaru for taking away the Sandame, his grandfather figure, attacking Konoha, and a bunch of other things. Now he couldn't help but hate the snake more for taking away Fu's only human bond she had. Listen to me on this. I know the man who killed your grandfather, or at least the closest thing you had to one. He tried to take away one of my strongest bonds, and that was the reason he killed your Gigi. For that, I'm sorry. It's okay. Your village sent us a report implicating some guy called Orochimaru in the murder of Gigi and using his image to lure your team into a trap, she said. But how did you save them? Shibi Gigi was the strongest ninja I knew and even he failed. If he failed, then how did you make it? Because, I believed in my strength and my friend's strength. I had already lost my Gigi to the same snake and I'll be damned if I let him take anything else, said Naruto. It's my Nindo. To never go back on my word. To become stronger to protect those bonds that I have worked so hard to achieve. If I may ask, who was your Gigi? Asked Fu. He was the Hokage, or at least the previous one. He was the one who watched over me as a child and the one who was there for me, said Naruto. When everyone else wanted to see me vanish, he was there to comfort me. Shibi sounds a lot like the Hokage and if I know him like I knew the Hokage Gigi, then he wouldn't want you to suffer like this. He would want you to try and make friends, well at least more friends anyways. What are you talking about? There's no one in Taki who will be my friend, said Fu. That doesn't mean you should give up. Someone's bound to come through eventually. Besides, you've already got a friend in me and Shino. I know he may seem a little creepy at first, but he's really a great guy and he's there when you need him, explained Naruto. And if you want another friend, try talking to Chome. Oh, and if you do, tell her Kurama says hi. Now I'm sorry but I've got to go find the rest of my team, the exam's not quite over yet. As Naruto left to go search for Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke, Fu was left wondering. She made her way back to the room she had been assigned, thinking on everything the blonde had said. Perhaps she should go talk to Shino and see if he really wanted to be her friend. Speaking of talking to friends, who was Chome? Suddenly, Fu couldn't help it as she slipped into unconsciousness. Naruto wandered his way through the lower level of the base, hoping to find Sasuke or Kakashi-sensei. He had been spending 15 minutes going from training room to training room, there really were a lot of them on that level, until he heard an explosion come from one. He entered the room just in time to avoid a blast of lightning from Sasuke as it collided into the chakra-reinforced target next to the door he entered through. Hey Dobi, watch it, called out Sasuke. What did you mean, watch it? Why don't you watch where you're aiming, shouted Naruto. Kakashi was immediately defusing the situation, blaming it on faulty placement of the target. Anyways, I'm surprised and impressed that you managed to get that jutsu, said Kakashi. Huh. It sounds like you know it, said Sasuke. I do. It's a jutsu that a clan in Iwa guarded closely due to its power. However, in terms of power, I would say Chidori either matches it or is a little stronger as you were able to stop it with said jutsu. I will say that's one jutsu we've been trying to get from Iwa for years now, but it seems like you've done the work for us, said Kakashi. Seriously, it's like none of them have ever fought the Sharingan before, said Sasuke. Kakashi chuckled a bit at that. Anyways, what's up Naruto? Nothing much, I've got nothing better to do, said Naruto. That's why I always carry a book on me. Never know when you're going to have nothing to do, said Kakashi, holding up the latest Ika Ika. Well, I do have my great-grandfather's book, but I've already looked through it and well, there's not really much in it. It looks as if it should have a lot of sealing knowledge in it, but there's nothing besides different types of sealing written on the pages, said Naruto, pulling out an old black book, about the same size as Kakashi's Ika Ika, and having an Uzumaki swirl on the cover. Naruto flipped through the pages, showing Kakashi exactly what he meant. All that were written on the pages were titles such as barrier seals, amplification seals, and other types of seals, but nothing else. Ow! Spat Naruto as he nicked the side of his finger on one of the pages. Quit complaining, it's only a paper cut, said Sasuke. Naruto watched as a single drop of blood managed to trickle out of the cut before it healed itself. The blood ran down his finger and dripped onto the page that he had opened. Naruto jumped back, dropping the book when a seal on said page lit up in a large scroll, about the size of the forbidden scroll, poofed. Well, what did ya know? A blood seal, said Kakashi, almost in an, I told you so, fashion. Well, at least we know one thing for sure. You are in Uzumaki, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to get past that blood seal. Kakashi, who exactly are the Uzumaki? Asked Sasuke. You mean you don't know? Asked Kakashi in slight disbelief. You were supposed to learn this back in the academy, as the Uzumaki had a huge part in the founding of Konoha. Wait, you mean the Uzumakis helped found Konoha with my ancestors and the Senju? Then why haven't I heard of the clan? Asked Sasuke. Because they weren't in Konoha. They had their own village called Uzushiogakure no Sato. That's where Ero Sennin and I went while you were getting private training from Kakashi, said Naruto. This was where Kakashi took over. The Uzumaki were responsible for aiding the Senju and Uchiha in the formation of Konoha. It is believed that without them, Konoha would have never been formed, which is also one reason why we wear the Uzumaki spiral on the back of our standard uniform. As for who exactly they are, well, I would have to go all the way back to the legends surrounding the Sage of the Six Paths, said Kakashi, until he stopped, his attention drawn towards the open door. Looks like we have a visitor. You know, you don't have to keep hiding like that from me anymore, called out Naruto, a smiling Hinata popping her head out from behind the door. But you guys sounded like you were discussing something important, replied Hinata, walking up next to Naruto. Besides, it's fun to see how close I can get. Well, it's not something that's really a secret, so you can join us if you want. But just answer this. Did you learn about the Uzumaki back in the academy? Asked Kakashi. There may have been a slight mention of the name, but nothing else. No history, no relations they had with Konoha, answered Hinata. Kakashi sighed. This really was supposed to be a major part of Konoha history. Anyways, the legend surrounding the sage states that he had two sons, the elder son who inherited the sage's eyes, and younger son who inherited the sage's body. Legend states that the elder son's descendants eventually formed the Uchiha clan while the younger son's descendants formed the Senju clan. I believe you know about that, Sasuke. Sasuke nodded, having been told about his clan history from his parents back when he was just a child. But somewhere down the line, before the Senju clan was formed, another line was formed which eventually became the Uzumaki clan. In a way, the Uzumakis are cousins of the Senju and distant relatives of the Uchiha. Now, the Uzumakis were an extremely powerful clan that were masters in various ninja arts, especially in taijutsu and kenjutsu. However, the area where they were most adept in was fuinjutsu. Kakashi, exactly how powerful were the Uzumaki? Asked Sasuke, needing to know that fact. Before you go asking me a ton of questions, realize that I'm not the best person to ask these questions to. Besides, this is something I'd rather not talk about while in the boundaries of Kumo. I promise if you have more questions, I'll answer them once we are in the security of Konoha. For now, just know that the Uzumakis were feared by many other nations for their prowess in fuinjutsu. As such, an alliance consisting of Kumo, Iwa, Kiri, and many other minor nations formed an alliance to wipe them out, which eventually started the Second Shinobi War. While destruction was inevitable, considering the size of the forces they were up against, the Uzumaki managed to cut the invading forces in at least half. Half, said Naruto and Sasuke in surprise. The combined forces must have totaled at least 40,000, and for a single clan, which had maybe a few hundred members at the very most, to have eliminated tens of thousands of enemies at once, well, that was just unheard of. Yes. The other villages at that point had reason to fear the Uzumakis, and that was shown in the battles preceding the destruction of Uzushiogakure, explained Kakashi. So where are they now? A clan that powerful, surely some had to survive, asked Sasuke. Only a few Uzumakis managed to escape. To the best of our knowledge, there are only two left. The one who nearly lost his head just a few minutes ago and one who managed to find her way into Orochimaru's service, said Kakashi. He looked over at Naruto, who was struggling to take this in and accept it. Kakashi placed a reassuring hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'm sorry, but that's the hard truth. Naruto, you're just like me. The last of a once great clan. I never imagined you'd be anything besides the dobi of the class. But yet, here you are, Doing the impossible once again and proving yourself to be worthy of being my rival, thought Sasuke. If he thought he wanted to fight against Naruto before, now he was sure he wanted to fight against Naruto. If what Kakashi said was true, then the Uzumakis were the only clan besides the Senju who could match the Uchiha. It's okay Kakashi-sensei. Ero Sennin already told me everything, said Naruto, regaining his cheerfulness. Hey Hinata, let's go and see what Morio Gigi put inside this book. Naruto took off out of the room, dragging Hinata behind him. Morio. I've heard that name before, but where? No. It can't be. Kakashi's visible eye shot wide open. Kakashi? Asked Sasuke, confused at his sensei's expression. It's nothing. Now why don't we see what the potential of that jutsu is now that we have any unnecessary casualties out of the way, said Kakashi. If that's who I think it is, then the Uzumaki heir still lives. Naruto had dragged Hinata back to the room he and Sasuke were sharing. Okay. Let's see what Gigi has for us, shouted Naruto excitedly. Hinata just giggled at Naruto's enthusiasm. Naruto began flipping through the pages, wondering which type of seal he should start with. There. Those two would be incredibly useful for you in these competitions, called Kurama from inside Naruto's head. Naruto flipped back through the book until he found the two types of seals that Kurama had mentioned. A grin plastered his face. These would be perfect. Hinata watched as Naruto unsealed two rather large scrolls from the book and took an initial look over them. About an hour later, his brain was on the border of brain dead as he tried to understand the incredibly complex seals written on the scrolls. Hinata had sadly given up trying to help after reading the first few lines and not being able to understand them at all. This is an Uzumaki seal, said Naruto in complete disbelief. The stuff Ero Sennin taught me doesn't even come close to the first few lines of this. There's no way, this is going to be impossible. Don't say that Naruto, said Hinata from behind Naruto, resting her head over his shoulder. If anyone can do it, then it's you. You've always had a KNCK for doing the impossible. If I know you, you'll have those seals down in time for the third exam. You're right. I'm going to get these down. Tabeo, declared Naruto, only for his stomach to protest. After some dinner. I'm starving. It was now getting late in the afternoon as Naruto and Hinata made their way towards the kitchen for some food. On the way there, they passed another two Kumo teams and the Kiri team with the Rokubi Jinchuriki. The Kiri Jinchuriki sent a massive blast of ki-killing intent towards Naruto, who didn't even flinch as he had been trained by Kurama to withstand even a demon's ki. After a few moments of exchanging looks and ki, Naruto realized that there were other people in the room beginning to suffer the effects of Biju-backed ki and they separated. Ni-san, shouted a pleasantly surprised Hinata when Team Guy walked through the main doors with Guy. Hinata-sama, Naruto, responded Neji. Your youthful flames burn brighter than ever for you to have beaten us here, shouted Lee. Yeah, especially considering we were the ones with more scrolls than you last time we met, said Tenten. Yeah, about that, just so you know, I'm not a clone so don't be throwing kunai at me this time, begged Naruto. This caused Tenten to laugh a little. Don't worry. Although we ended up running into a field with a lot of dead Iwa ninja and were hoping we could salvage a scroll from there, but they were all gone or half burned, said Tenten. Naruto responded with an innocent grin, which being Hyuga, Neji immediately caught. That was you, wasn't it? What? Both Tenten and Lee shouted in unison. Naruto sighed. Yeah, we were ambushed by a gang of about 15 Iwa ninja, I guess with some sort of grudge with Konoha from the last war. Unfortunately, it was either kill or be killed. There was an awkward moment of silence before Naruto's and Team Guy's stomachs began rumbling, prompting a bit of laughter from everyone. Suddenly, everyone's attention was turned to the newcomer in the room. Gaara, said Naruto. Every member of Team Guy was instantly on guard as Gaara approached them. Hello Naruto, said Gaara. He turned to Lee. It is good to see you here, Lee. Yash. It is good to be here, shouted Lee. Suddenly, Gaara bowed at Lee. I sincerely apologize for what happened during our last meeting. This caught most of Team Guy off guard, except Neji, who still thought of Gaara as an unstable killer. As evening came to an end and night slowly approached, Naruto and Hinata found their way out onto a balcony which had a brilliant view of the setting sun between two distant peaks. You know, it may not be as pretty as the sunset from the top of the Hokage monument, but it's still pretty beautiful, commented Hinata, snuggling into Naruto. About 2 hours later, after a little bit of stargazing, Naruto found his way back to his room. He wanted to get a long rest for tomorrow as the second exam would be coming to a close in the middle of the afternoon that same day. There was a lot of teams occupying the base already, and even with the rumors of Kumo having a lot of participants in the third exam, this still seemed like a lot and he wanted to be well rested just in case a preliminary round came up like it did in the previous exams. Naruto finally managed to drift away into dreamland. Naruto awoke to find himself in some flame-lit corridor with a bowl of ramen, of all things, in his hand. It wasn't until he started to feel and look around that he realized that he was sitting on something big, furry, and kind of reddish-orange. Okay, where am I? Asked Naruto. About time you woke up. I was afraid you'd be sleep eating ramen for another hour or two, called out a familiar voice. Huh. What are you doing here, Kurama? Asked Naruto. And where are we going? This is a rare occurrence, but it happens every now and then if enough of us are close by, said Kurama. What does? And who? Asked Naruto. Before he could get an answer, the corridor opened up into a large stone-lined chamber with a circular fuin pattern on the ground. I see, so this is your kitten, said another demonic voice. Naruto looked over towards one of the other corridors, only to see a blue flaming two-tailed cat, with a particular blonde girl wearing a night robe on top of the cat's head. I thought he'd be a little bit bigger than that. It's not my fault that his ramen obsession has prevented him from getting the proper nutrition to grow at a normal rate, retorted Kurama. Another voice was heard from another corridor and Kurama swore under his breath. Woohoo! That was a wonderful night of killing. You should have seen the looks on those mist humans' faces. Oh, and what about those pathetic Kumo humans? I think I set a new time record killing them. Shukaku appeared out of said corridor, with Gaara sitting on top of his head in a cross-legged position as if he was meditating. You killed my comrades, shouted Yugito with venom in her voice. Oh man, it was a blast, replied Shukaku. Hey Foxy, nice seeing you here. How many did you manage to kill? Gaara merely sighed. He had tried to awaken himself from meditation. Gaara can't sleep so he meditates instead, but sadly it appeared as if he was stuck with the Shukaku's killing rants for the night. However, it got better once he noticed that Naruto and another person, who he recognized as the girl who prevented him from killing Naruto during the first exams, were there as well. What was even more surprising was the presence of two other Biju. 15, replied Kurama. Shukaku's jaw nearly dropped, having been bested in the kill count. What? You killed 15 people in this exam? Asked Yugito, turning her attention to Naruto. In my defense, they were Iwa ninja who attacked my team first. Although there is a Kumo team, I wouldn't mind beating up a little when they tried to kill us while we were evacuating a few injured comrades who had an unfortunate run-in with the Rokubi's Jinchuriki, defended Naruto. Oh, they were just Iwa. Then never mind, said Yugito. No one likes Iwa. This earned a laugh out of Naruto. Oi Foxy, how about letting me kill that brat of yours? You kill mine, I kill yours and we go on a rampage like good old times, offered Shukaku. How about I take that tail of yours and shove it up your ass? You should know better than the rest of us that we can't kill our Jinchuriki while in here. Besides, if anyone even thinks about killing my kit, then they'll be finding themselves tailless, threatened. Kurama as Shukaku cringed and Matabi let out a sigh. Have they always been like this? Asked Yugito. The Nibi sadly nodded. Well, I never thought I'd see the day when Kurama, of all Biju, would grow fond of his host, said another demonic voice as it emerged from yet another tunnel. Everyone's attention turned to see a rather large bull octopus emerge from the tunnel, with the one and only killer bee riding atop its head. Figured I'd try something new for once, Yuki. It gets boring being sealed for 100 years, I need something to entertain myself. Besides, there's just something about this kit, replied Kurama. Plus, I've heard what you have to put up with, and I'll take this blonde brat any day. Kurama burst out into laughter as the Hachibi's sweat dropped. So can anyone answer my question? What's going on here? Asked Naruto once again. Every now and then, the Biju meet up again. Talk, chat, and listen to the killer beats of Killer Bee. Bakayaro Kanayaro, Rapt B. A few people demons let out a sigh. 4 of you. It's my lucky day. First my human finally decides to talk to me and now I get to see a few friendly, and one, bloodied face, said the Nanabi as it flew down from what appeared to be a large hole in the ceiling. Thank you, I do my best to keep up my appearance, said the Shukaku, responding to the bloodied face comment. Hey Fu, shouted Naruto, greeting his newest friend. Needless to say, the green-haired Jinchuriki couldn't help but feel surprised that Naruto, the blonde she had met earlier that day, was in the middle of a room where demons were meeting with one another, although that did explain a lot. UHG, what's that smell? Asked Yugito as she began coughing. So did a few of the other Jinchuriki. Saiken, can you keep your gas to yourself? Asked the Nanabi, using her wings to blow away the mist. Sorry, but so many Jinchuriki makes me want to kill, especially that one, the giant slug said, pointing at Naruto. Stealing those kills was a bad move, brat. I'm going to take extra pleasure in watching you suffer the next time we meet. And trust me, we will, said the Kiri Jinchuriki. What the hell is wrong with you? Shouted Naruto. All this killing. I'm only going to say this once, you touch my friends, and I'll kick your ass. Gaara took a look at the Rokubi's Jinchuriki and saw the bloodlust in his eyes. He was just like how Gaara used to be, only wanting to kill. No, something was different about this guy. His eyes were cold, no warmth existed inside this man at all. It's like his heart had been melted away by all the acid he has been exposed to. He showed no remorse for any of his actions. In fact, he rather enjoyed doing it. This was a man who had gone even further into the darkness, farther than he had ever gone, and probably too far to come back. Su, Ichi, Ni, Roku, Nana, Hachi, Q. There are 6 of us here, more than there usually is, said Kurama. Yeah, I guess these Chunin exams that the humans hold at least served some benefit in bringing us together again, said Matabi. This has happened before? Asked Naruto. As I said, this is a rare occasion, but it does happen. When there are a few of us around and we are all in the same state of mind, we can enter a certain level of the subconsciousness where we can talk with one another, explained Naruto. Some time passed which really consisted of the Biju who were present catching up with one another and simply talking and catching up. Some insults were exchanged, particularly between Kurama and Shunkaku and also Saiken and most of the other Biju, but the conversations remained at least somewhat civilized, about as civilized as you can imagine with 6 demons present. Looks like our time is coming to an end, said Yuki as he and a lot of the other Biju began to feel themselves fade out of the subconsciousness. Before they could leave, Naruto managed to say one last thing. Be careful. There is a group known as Akatsuki that's going to be coming after all of us in a few years, said Naruto. Why are they targeting us? Asked Gaara. I don't know. Ero Sennin and I encountered 2 of them a few months back and all I know is that they were pretty powerful and they wanted the Biju for some reason, but I don't really know why, explained Naruto. Naruto was just barely able to finish his warning before everyone faded from the subconsciousness. About a half hour before the exams were scheduled to end, everyone in the base made their way to the largest dojo in the base at the bottom floor. It looked somewhat similar to the same arena inside the tower in the Forest of Death as it had a large floor and a few raised platforms. Looking around the room, there was a rather large number of teams with their respective senseis and village officials up front standing behind the rakeage. Teams 7, 8, and Guy from Konoha, Gaara and his siblings from Suna, Fu and her team from Taki, the Mist team, and 5 Kumo teams made up the current count, but with some time still left on the clocks, it was still possible another team could still make it in time. Speaking of which, a few minutes before the exam ended, Team 10 managed to drag themselves into the dojo, bruised and battered, but they were there. As of now, the second round of the Chunin exams is officially over, announced Darui, who had taken over as proctor for B, after B's attempted concert. Darui made his way over to the rakeage to discuss the next step. There are quite a few of them. What do you think? He asked. Grunted the rakeage. 5 of our teams, that's pretty good, but I see Konoha has 4. I was expecting 1, maybe 2, but not 4. There are too many. I see. Shall we do a preliminary round then? Asked Darui. Yes, we should be able to eliminate most of the competition for our Chunin hopefuls in the final round, said the rakeage. I understand, boss, said Darui before turning around to the rest of the field. I congratulate all 36 of you for passing the second round. It is at this time that I am sorry to inform you that you are not quite finished yet. What do you mean, not finished? Asked a Kumo ninja. Most of the ninja, especially those from Konoha and Suna, knew what was going to happen next, having already experienced something like this. I mean, 36 is an extremely high number to be advancing onto the next round. The third exam will be consisting of one-on-one matches where you will be fighting in front of crowds that include judges and lords. Because of this, the last thing we want to do is waste the lord's time with frivolous matches, and 18 matches would be quite a lot. A normal round of fighting consists of between 7 to 10 matches for us, so that means that one round of preliminary matches should be sufficient to reduce the numbers, explained Darui. Reduce the numbers? Questioned another of the Kumo ninja. We've worked hard to complete this exam and we've earned our spot in the third round. While that may be true, we make the rules here. As such, we have decided that there are simply too many of you to have an exciting third round, said Darui. Some took this as an insult that they were too boring or not worth the time, while others who were familiar with this just sighed at the rookies' antics. Now, for those of you who should manage to advance to the third round, you will have 2 chances to convince the judges that you have the skills worthy of a chunin. The first round of matches will be held 4 weeks from now, while the second round of matches will occur 3 days after the first round. For those of you who are able to fight after the first round, you will have a second chance to impress the judges. It does not matter if you win or lose the first match, so long as you can fight. For those of you who make their way into the third round, your first matches will be announced after we have narrowed down the field. So how are we determining who we fight in these preliminary matches? Asked Neji, wanting to avoid any more complaining. These matches will be chosen by random, with the winner advancing and the loser not advancing. Now, before we begin, are there any other questions? Asked Darui. There were a few questions from some of the newer ninja to this scenario, basically about what would end a match and other basic stuff. If all the questions are over, those of you who do not wish to continue can forfeit now. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to bow out, said a younger-looking Kumo ninja who had a bandaged-up leg and arm. Unfortunately, my arm and leg are in no condition to fight. Very well, probably a smart move, said Darui. He asked around for any other volunteers, but when no others raised their hands, he proceeded. Now, seeing as we have an odd number, you will draw slips to determine who gets the bye. B came around with a box that contained mostly blank slips and one with a red dot on it. The one who drew the red dot would be the one with the bye. Ninja after ninja, a blank sheet was drawn until it came to Lee. Rock Lee, Konoha Genin, you will be given a bye, announced Darui. Lee began to shiver. No. I do not accept this. Please take this unyouthful piece of paper away from me, shouted Lee, shoving the paper back at B. Boss, what do we do? Asked Darui. I don't know, said the Raikage in disbelief. He had never seen anyone pass up a free ride to the finals before. I guess if he wants to risk his chance in a fight, let him. Very well, we will redo the drawing, announced Darui. Before walking away, B held out his fist to Lee, motioning for the green-clad genin to pound fists. I like your style, commented B before walking away. Lee looked up towards Guy, who responded with a thumbs up and a smile. After the second round of drawings, the bye fell on Omoi of Kumo, who accepted the bye. If you will turn your attention to the screen, we will then select the matches, announced Darui. As the screen flickered through names, thoughts were racing. Sasuke and Lee were hoping for their matches to be soon. Naruto was hoping any of his friends didn't get matched up against the Kiri Jinchuriki. Sakura was hoping for a particular blonde, and Shino was rather indifferent. Match 1. Xiaomi vs Hyuga Hinata. Naruto let out a long-held breath. Well, not really that long since it is only the first match. Hinata had avoided a fight with that Kiri Jinchuriki, or any other Jinchuriki for that matter, and he wouldn't have to worry about her matchup for much longer. Everyone besides Hinata and the Kumo Kunoichi called Xiaomi were ordered to move to the upper platforms to observe. Good luck, Haim, Naruto whispered into Hinata's ear before. Hinata shot Naruto a reassuring smile before facing her opponent. Xiaomi was a kunoichi from Kumo who was maybe a few inches taller than Hinata and probably a few years older than her as well. As Darui signaled for the match to begin, Hinata assumed the standard Juken stance. Hinata made the first move, taking off at a rather high speed towards her opponent. As Hinata approached her opponent, Xiaomi merely vanished, causing Hinata to stop her assault. What's going on? Where'd she go? Asked Kiba. Genjutsu, replied Kurenai, Kakashi, Asuma, Guy, Sakura, Shino, Sasuke, Neji, Ino, Choji, Shinji, and Tenten all in unison. Naruto would reply, but he was immune to the genjutsu thanks to the furball that lived in his head. Yeah, I knew that, I was just making sure you all did, replied Kiba, trying to save face. Hinata felt a kunai press up against her neck as Xiaomi came up from behind. I suggest you surrender before I sever that cute little head of yours from the rest of your body. Pathetic, said Shinji. I can't believe she let someone sneak up behind her. She has the Byakugan after all. You are in my field of divination, called out a voice from behind Xiaomi. What? She said, quickly slashing the knife through her captive's neck, only for it to disappear in a puff of smoke. Juken. 8 trigrams, 64 palms, shouted Hinata as she went to work on her opponent. 64 rapid strikes later, Xiaomi collapsed to the ground, unable to move as a good portion of her chakra system had been disabled. Winner, Hyuga Hinata, announced Darui. Where did she learn how to use shadow clones? Asked a surprised Kurenai. Everyone's attention drifted to an innocent-looking blonde with his hand behind his head. Ero Sennin kind of had me teach it to her a few months ago, replied Naruto. Hey. Great job Hinata. Thank you, Naruto, replied Hinata as she blushed slightly and pressed her fingers together. I could have defeated her earlier, but I felt like working on my shadow clone diversions. Shinji spat at this as everyone looked up at the board for the next match. Match 2. Yakuro of Kumogore vs Takaru of Takigakure. The leader of the group of Kumo ninja who scammed a scroll of Team 7 and tried to kill them took the arena as Takaru, one of Fu's teammates did the same. As Darui signaled the beginning of the fight, it became obvious that Yakuro had the clear advantage of being both faster and more skilled. Unfortunately, this was normally the case when pitting a major village versus a minor village. The battle was over in a few minutes. Sasuke had been watching the battle with his Sharingan. In fact, he was going to watch every battle with his Sharingan with hopes of picking up something useful. Anyways, while it was clear that Yakuro was a lightning user, like a good majority of Kumo ninja, there wasn't much Sasuke was able to get out of that match. Yakuro had managed to defeat Takaru using mostly taijutsu and kenjutsu, with a small C-rank lightning jutsu to shock Takaru when he used a water jutsu. Sasuke took a look up towards the boar and smirked. Match 3. Uchiha Sasuke of Konoha vs Hami of Kumogakure. Perfect, thought Sasuke. If there was anyone's ass he wanted to kick right now, it was one of those 3 Kumo ninja they ran into during the survival exercise. Well, if it isn't one of the pathetic weaklings from the mountain. I guess I really was meant to kick your ass, said the Kumo Kunoichi as she unsheathed her own sword. Too bad, you're actually kind of handsome. This caused an uproar with both Sakura and Ino, although Sakura was able to keep herself under control, except for the kick her ass, Sasuke. Sakura shouted. Sasuke looked at his opponent, staring at her with his red eyes. Hami was the first to make a move, running at Sasuke. She took a few swings at Sasuke with her sword, who easily dodged them, being able to see where her attacks would land with his Sharingan. Cloud style, crescent moon slash, called out Hami as she swung her sword in a crescent moon-shaped arc at Sasuke. Much to her dismay, Sasuke dodged the strike without much effort. Is that really the best you have? Mocked Sasuke. He looked at her eyes. They were angry and he was correct. Sasuke sighed. Such a disappointment. And here I was hoping to get something useful out of this fight. Oh well, at the very least I can give this a try. Kaden. Flame step. As Sasuke completed his jutsu, flames swirled around his legs. About halfway up his thighs. Sasuke ran towards Hami at a surprising speed, leaving a trail of fire in his wake. She swung with her sword again, hoping to intercept Sasuke, but once again he simply ducked underneath it. Before she could react to his next move, Sasuke was right beneath her as he sent a fire-laced kick up into her gut, sending her into the air with an explosion of fire. From there, he went into the motions for the lion's barrage with each kick emanating a blast of flames that caused Hammy to cringe at the burning sensation. As Hammy landed hard on her back, Sasuke let out one more roar. Flaming lion's barrage, he shouted, slamming his foot into Hammy's stomach, resulting in the largest eruption of flames. A few medics came onto the field to check Hammy's condition. She was alive, but a few broken bones and some severe burns would earn her a lot of time in the hospital. Darui sighed. Winner, Uchiha Sasuke. The Raikage clenched his fist and a few people could feel the tension in the room already. These preliminaries were meant to eliminate the excessive amounts of Konoha shinobi, not his own shinobi. Already Kumo was 1-2 and Konoha was 2-0. We should have just put them out of their misery in the second exam, said Sasuke, walking back up towards the balcony. Sadly, you're right. That looked too easy, said Naruto. Oh well, that just means that they really weren't ready. I mean, after all, they had to attack us when we were carrying injured comrades. How low can you get? Replied Sasuke. Okay. Me next, shouted Naruto. Come on, damn. Match 4. Botetsu of Kumo vs Gaara of Suna. Oh well, at least we get to watch Gaara, thought Naruto. This should be quick, commented Kankuro. Indeed it was. It only took a minute or so before Gaara had Botetsu wrapped up in a sand cocoon with a large lance of sand pressed up against his face. Not wanting to spill any more blood in this tournament, Gaara was giving the Kumo genin a chance to forfeit. About 6 months earlier, Kankuro and Tamari would have taken their brother to a psychiatric clinic for mental evaluations after he spared someone. Darui sighed as he could feel just a little more pressure be added to the room by the Raikage. We had better begin winning matches soon or boss is going to lose it, Darui thought. Yosh. If I am not next, then I will do 500 push-ups, and if I am not next after that, I will run 300 times up and down the mountain on one hand, shouted Lee. Ridiculous, replied Neji as Tenten's head dropped at her teammates' antics. Match 5. Aburame Shino of Konoha vs Kankuro of Suna. It appears as if we are next, said Shino, turning to Kankuro. 1, 2, 3, counted Lee as he dropped to the ground and began doing push-ups, earning a look from most of the people on the balcony. Shino and Kankuro made their way to the floor. As the match began, Shino and Kankuro both just stood there, hands in their pockets and not really doing much. Oh, get on with it already, shouted Tamari from the balcony after about a 5-minute starring contest. Troublesome woman, commented Shikamaru, who had also taken a spot on the balcony next to his team. What did you say, Pineapple Head? Responded Tamari. Shikamaru just sighed. Yep, troublesome indeed. Back in the arena, Shino raised his arms as his swarm of insects came out as Kankuro made a few movements with his arms and his puppets emerged from the bundle. With a few motions of his fingers, Kankuro's puppet, Crow darted towards Shino, driving its fist into the ground where Shino once stood. Shino just barely jumped out of the way to avoid the dagger that had popped out of Crow's hand. As Shino jumped back, Crow shot a few daggers out of its mouth at the bug user, which found their target in Shino's shoulder. There is poison on these daggers. My insects should be able to neutralize most of it, but I cannot let any more get to me, thought Shino. Crow came at Shino again, as the bug user put up a screen of bugs to obscure Kankuro's vision. As such, Kankuro switched from a stab with Crow, to a slash. The slash opened a temporary window in the barrier of insects. When Kankuro could see Shino, if even for just a second, he had Crow launch some more daggers towards Shino, who was forced to take another step back. Kankuro smirked as he made a flick with another finger and from behind Shino, his second puppet, Red Ant, appeared with its central compartment open as it swallowed Shino. I strongly recommend forfeiting if you don't want to end up a stuck bug, said Kankuro. Tamari face-palmed herself from the balcony. Don't even get started on the puns already, shouted Tamari. Why? Am I bugging you? Joked Kankuro. Tamari clenched her fist and a tick mark appeared on her forehead. I would forfeit, but it does not appear as if you have captured me, said Shino as he emerged from the cloud of insects that was still hovering around Crow. Kankuro looked over in surprise to Red Ant to see numerous insects pouring out of the openings in the puppet as Red Ant collapsed to the ground after Shino's bugs severed the chakra strings on it. A few seconds later, Crow met the same fate and Shino turned his swarm on Kankuro. I believe it is you who should forfeit now. Shit, swore Kankuro. Shino had him. Fine, I give. Smart choice, said Shino as he recalled his swarm. Winner, Aburame Shino, announced Darui. At this time, Lee was finishing with his set of push-ups. Way to go Shino, shouted Kiba and Naruto from the stands as the rest of the Konoha squad sent him either a congratulatory look. While this match didn't increase the Raikage's frustration, it certainly didn't help as Konoha now had 3 participants in the finals. Everyone looked anxiously at the board, waiting for the next pairing. Yash. It is time for my youth to shine, shouted Lee. Match 6. Ria of Kurigakure vs Rock Lee of Konoha. Naruto began to sweat a little, but thankfully his worries were settled when he saw one of the Kiri Jinchuriki's teammates move towards the arena. The last thing he needed was for Lee to go from almost being killed by one Jinchuriki to almost being killed by another. Lee and his opponent entered the arena. Lee took his stance as Darui called for the start of the match. Immediately, Lee was off. Lee lashed out a strong kick at Ria's side. The Mist Ninja had just enough time to grab the pair of steel tonfas that he had on his back to block Lee's kick. Still, Ria found himself forced back a few meters. Damn kid, you've got some strength in that kick, I'll give you that, but you're going to need more than just that kick to beat me, said Ria. Ninja art. Water tonfas. Ria's tonfas soon became encased in water, which added to their power and added a more potent point at the end of the weapons. Lee and Ria spent the next few minutes trading blows. Neither of them landed any serious blows, but they did manage a few glancing blows which had an increased impact on each other due to the nature of their attacks. For Lee, one thing was sure, this Kiri opponent wasn't like some of the other opponents in the previous matches. This guy actually had a decent skill at being a close-quarters fighter. Please forgive me Guy-sensei, but it is my best option for winning this, thought Lee, glancing up at his sensei. In the stands, Guy caught Lee's eye and instantly knew what his student was thinking. Guy nodded back to his student, a little reluctantly. A normal frontal lotus with only one gate, Lee could handle without much repercussions besides the normal fatigue, so long as he got some proper rest. Afterwards. So long as this guy wasn't like Gaara, the frontal lotus would be enough. Lee unraveled some of his bandages from his arms, causing a few eyebrows to be raised in the stands, and he mentally unlocked the first of the 8 celestial gates. With an increased boost of speed, Lee dashed towards his opponent, who thrust his weapons out in front of him, hoping to catch Lee. However, Lee disappeared from in front of Ria, only to knock him up into the air with a strong unsuspecting kick from below to the chin. Lee then shadowed the floating Ria and his bandages encased the shocked Kiri Genin. Primary Lotus, shouted Lee as he barreled down towards the ground, slamming the encased Ria into the ground. When the dust cleared, Ria laid on the ground, unconscious and most likely with a rather large concussion. Winner, Rock Lee, announced Darui. Yeah. Way to go Lee, shouted a few of his friends from the balcony, mainly Tenten and Sakura. Yes, Guy-sensei. How was that? Shouted Lee. Lee. I'm so proud, shouted Guy. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Lee jumped up onto the balcony and embraced his sensei in a manly hug with the ocean sunset as the backdrop. A few of the non-Konoha ninja tried desperately to release this horrendous genjutsu that had been cast on them. It's not going to work, said Naruto, turning to Yugito's team, who was standing near the Konoha group. It's not a genjutsu, come to think of it, I don't think anyone's really sure what it is. The best way to describe it is the flames of youth, said Tenten. After the shuddering ceased from the rest of the ninja present and Guy and Lee finished, everyone looked up at the board. Ha! This is perfect, now Sasuke will see just how great I am. And once I win, Sasuke will practically beg me to be his girlfriend. No, wife, squealed Ino. Naruto and Sasuke looked over at Sakura, who was gripping the railing tightly. Sakura, are you okay? Asked Naruto. Yeah, I'll be fine. I need to do this, for Ino's sake, said Sakura as she removed her hand from the railing. The railing was crushed where Sakura's hand had been. It's about time she begins to blossom, and for the most beautiful flowers to blossom, they have to endure the harshest of winters. I was hoping for this to come, but I never imagined it would happen again. Perhaps it was fate, commented Neji. We're not starting with the fate crap again, are we Neji? Shouted Naruto. Neji merely chuckled. Hey billboard brow, get your sorry ass down here so I can kick it. Shouted Ino. Go do what you need to do, Sakura, said Sasuke. Sakura nodded. Just don't overdo it. Oh, I plan to, replied Sakura. Match 7. Haruno Sakura of Konoha vs Yamanaka Ino of Konoha. Chapter 53. Prelims come to a close. Hey billboard brow, get your sorry ass down here, shouted Ino from the arena. Sakura let go of the rail, revealing a much dented rail where her hand was. Here Naruto, hold on to these, said Sakura, passing Naruto her pouch where she stored her extra senbon. I don't keep the pink ones in my gloves and the last thing I want to do is use those on Ino. She then proceeded to make her way down to the arena to meet Ino. Troublesome, said Shikamaru. Is that all you say? Shouted Tamari towards the lazy Chunin. Troublesome woman, responded Shikamaru with a bored expression on his face. At this point, Tamari was about ready to slam her fan into the Nara's face. The only thing holding her back would probably be Gaara's sand. Dobi, if you play around with those, you're going to prick yourself, said Sasuke to Naruto, who was looking through Sakura's bag of senbon. Ouch, shouted Naruto as he shook his hand from pricking himself with one of Sakura's sleeping senbon. Told you, replied Sasuke. Shut up Tem. Yawn, I feel sleepy, yawned Naruto before collapsing to the ground. Everyone's sweat dropped. If Naruto missed his match because of this, there was no way Sasuke would ever let him live it down. Troublesome, replied Shikamaru, observing the whole thing. That's it. Get over here pineapple head, shouted Tamari as Shikamaru began running. Once Sakura arrived down in the arena, Darui signaled the start of the fight. Well well, little Sakura. Here I'll show Sasuke who truly is the better, ouch. Shouted Ino as she felt something sharp drive into her shoulder. Shut up and fight, growled Sakura. Grr, fine, shouted Ino as she charged at Sakura. Sakura easily dodged a nose punch and threw her against the opposite wall. This world is no place for silly girls living in a fantasy world Ino. I nearly died learning that fact and so are you, said Sakura. What are you talking about, billboard brow, responded Ino. That senbon in your shoulder is coated with a poison will take full effect in about 5 minutes, said Sakura, pointing to the black senbon in Ino's shoulder. If you can't beat me by then, it'll be all over. As a matter of fact, I could have killed you just a moment ago while you were boasting about how you're going to kick my ass for Sasuke. You're joking billboard brow. There's no way you have what it takes to beat me, said Ino, swinging another punch at Sakura, only for the pinkett to easily block. I'm not, and in fact you should have been dead days ago when you ran into that monster, shouted Sakura, pointing up towards the Kiri Jinchuriki who just managed a grin behind his mask. But you're not because I was the one who saved you. That was all a genjutsu. It was Sasuke who saved us, not you, shouted Ino as she swung another punch at Sakura. Again, Sakura dodged with ease. Up in the stands, Sakura's not really trying to kill Ino, is she? Asked a concerned Kurenai. Kakashi whispered something into her ear and she got it. Down in the arena, Sakura dodged another punch from Ino, retaliating with one of her own this time. Sakura's punch caught Ino in the stomach and sent her sliding back against the floor, clutching her stomach in pain. You're going to need to do much better if you want to beat me, let alone survive. Ino growled, but her eyes suddenly shot open as she began losing feeling in her arms. My arm. Looks like it's starting to take effect. The poison will start with your arms and legs and work its way towards the more vital organs in your body. If I'm correct, you've got about 3 minutes left. And I doubt you have anything that can save you. Oh, and if you're even thinking of using your mind switch jutsu on me, I think we learned last time that doesn't work. Explained Sakura. However, my techniques should work just fine. Ninpo. Hell viewing technique. Ino watched as a swirl of cherry blossoms enveloped her and she found herself in some sort of forest setting. Her initial thought was genjutsu, but she soon saw Sasuke, lying face down on the ground with a few arrows sticking out of his back and the sound for smiling at their kill. Sasuke. Ino, Sasuke said weakly. Sasuke. Don't worry, I'm here for you, cried Ino as she made her way towards Sasuke. Ah, did the poor little baby lose something? Asked Kidomaru. I say we just put the whore out of her misery, commented Tayuya. Kidomaru drew back his bow and aimed it at Ino, loosing the arrow straight into Ino's chest. Ino winced in pain as she collapsed next to the ground, next to Sasuke. Ino, said Sasuke weakly. With what little life she had left in her, Ino turned her attention to Sasuke. I always knew you'd be the death of me. You're weak, too weak for me, too weak for anyone. As Ino passed into darkness, she awoke back in the arena with a piercing cry. Sasuke. Ino then collapsed to the ground, no longer able to move her legs or arms. Sakura's tone changed from harsh to sincere. Ino, I know exactly what you saw, because I actually lived that. I stood by, completely helpless as I watched Sasuke, my friend and comrade, die right in front of me. I watched him die as I slowly felt myself die as well. I was lucky, by some miracle, we both made it out of that alive, but I will never forget how useless I felt there. Afterwards, I began to push myself to become the best ninja I could become, so that I would never be just a burden again. Sakura, am I really going to die? Asked Ino, completely broken. Sakura smiled. No. That was just a paralytic poison that should wear off in about 15 minutes. But I was serious, I could have killed you if I had wanted. But why did you do something like this? I thought we were friends, asked Ino. I did it because we are friends, Ino. I want my Ino back, the girl that used to be my best friend. The one who would laugh with me and the one who didn't make fun of my forehead. Not the one that I would always fight with over some silly crush, said Sakura. I really am sorry that I had to put you through this, but this was the only way I thought I could get the real you back. The Ino I would have fun with and the one I know that can become a killer kunoichi someday. And the Ino who make all the boys in Konoha worship her someday, not the stuck-up fangirl. Ino was crying uncontrollably at this point. Sakura, I'm sorry, I've been a terrible friend, can you ever forgive me? Asked Ino. Sakura smiled. Sure I can. I'm your friend and that's what we do, help each other through tough times like this. Sakura picked up a limp Ino and began to walk up the stairs. Hey, you know the match is still going on, shouted Darui. No it's not. I forfeit, I mean Sakura had this one from the very beginning, said Ino. Very well. Winner, Haruno Sakura, announced Darui. That was a very cruel thing for you to do, Pinky, said Enko as Sakura arrived at the top of the balcony. She was giving one of those looks that only Enko could do, you know, the one that you make you shit your pants and wish for a quick death. Sakura began freaking out a little before Enko wrapped her up in a big hug. Oh, I've never been so proud of anyone. You've got potential, Pinky. If you're ever interested in tapping into that potential, come to me. Enko had just found a new best friend, apparently. Sakura just stood there, stupefied. Was she just congratulated by Enko of all people? Yan, what did I miss? Asked Naruto, waking up from his drug-induced sleep. This earned him that same look that Enko had just given Sakura. Only from Sakura. Baka. You were asleep this entire time, shouted Sakura, giving Naruto a good-sized lump on his head. Sakura, can I ask you one more thing? Asked Ino. Did you really save me and my team from that Kiri ninja? Well, my entire team did, but I was the one who treated you. If not for the treatment, you probably would have died, said Sakura. I see. I believe you and I'm really sorry for doubting you, said Ino. Suddenly, Ino found herself in a hug by Sakura. It's okay, I'm just glad my best friend's back. A few people awed, while the rest turned their attention to the scoreboard. Match 8. Fu of Taki vs Kazuno of Kumo. This match took a little longer than some of the other matches, but the outcome was something that made one particular Leaf Genin happy, even if he didn't show it. Fu had won, earning her a spot in the finals and giving her a chance to do what a fellow Jinchuriki of hers suggested to do, prove to everyone who she really was. Like most of the other Kumo ninja present, this one had some skill with a sword and preferred to use it as a primary offensive. Fu spent a decent amount of the fight dodging, in which she proved to be rather light on her feet. It was when she was finally able to get an attack off, Ninpo, blinding scales technique which temporarily blinded her opponent, that she was able to make a few decisive moves to end the match. Okay, come on. I want to go, shouted Naruto. Sakura and Sasuke sighed. Naruto was getting almost as impatient as the Raikage, who was really starting to blow a fuse now. Kumo was 1-4 while Konoha was 5-1, with their only loss being in a match between Konoha ninja. Damn it. Match 9. Inuzuka Kiba of Konoha vs Yugito Ni of Kumo. Hopefully this will help the dull situation, thought Darui. If anyone from Kumo can win, it's Yugito. Alright, let's go Akamaru, shouted Kiba. Arf. Kiba and his buddy made their way down to the arena with Yugito following closely behind. Now, if I remember correctly, she's some sort of crazy cat hag. We've got this in the bag, said Kiba. I'm sorry to say this, but Kiba's going to get his ass kicked, replied Naruto. Kiba's comment instantly caught Yugito's attention and her eyes turned yellow with slit pupils, like that of a cat's. So you honestly think you can beat me, you mutt? Asked Yugito. I'd like to see you and that little rat of yours try. Akamaru's no rat. Man-beast clone, shouted Kiba as Akamaru turned into a feral version of Kiba and Kiba became more beastly himself. Let's go boy. Gatsuga. Kiba and Akamaru barreled towards Yugito who instinctively twisted around their attacks with a level flexibility that would make even Hinata look as stiff as a board. As Kiba and Akamaru made another pass at her, Yugito took a deep breath. Kaden. Mouse hairball, shouted Yugito as she exhaled a fireball that quickly took the shape of a mouse. The fireball then began to divide into many other smaller mouse-shaped fireballs. The smaller fireballs then proceeded to lock onto one of the Kibas who turned out to be Akamaru after the subsequent explosion sent the puppy skidding across the room, injured enough that he was out of the fight. Akamaru, shouted Kiba. Grr, you'll pay for that. Kiba rushed towards Yugito, ready to swipe at her with his canine-like claws. As he charged, Yugito's own claws rapidly grew. As Kiba dove towards Yugito, she simply leaned back as Kiba's attack flew over her. As Kiba was over her, she slashed with her own claws across the dog user's chest. Kiba tumbled to the ground in obvious pain. The next thing Kiba felt as he slowly uncurled himself were Yugito's claws at his throat. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue, dog boy? Asked Yugito as Kiba could only help but growl at his defeat. Winner, Yugito. Ni of Kumo, announced Darui. Instantly, he could feel some of the Raikage's pressure backing off. Kiba and Akamaru were taken off to the infirmary. Their wounds weren't critical, but they would require some treatment. Come on. Let me go already, shouted Naruto. Just hush, you'll get your turn already, said Sakura. But I can't help it. Sasuke won his match, Hinata won hers, and wait. How did you do again? I was sleeping, asked Naruto, only to receive a fist bop on the top of his head. I happened to win mine as well, thank you very much, said Sakura, crossing her arms as Hinata was busy rubbing the lump on Naruto's head. Match 10. Yumo of Kumo vs Rigito of Taki, damn it. I want to go, shouted Naruto. Oh, don't get your tails in a bundle, said Yugito as she walked past them. Winner, Yumo of Kumo, announced Darui. Wow, that was fast, said Naruto. I expected Yumo to end it quickly. He's like that and he's one of the best shinobi we've got in these exams. Besides, it's good that he won. Raikage-sama's been getting pretty close to exploding, said Yugito. Hey Sasuke, how did he win so fast? Asked Naruto. You should watch the match next time. It seems like he's primarily a taijutsu user, but he knows where to hit an opponent, said Sasuke. You mean like the Hyugas? Asked Naruto. Sasuke shook his head. No, I'm talking that it seems like he knows the general weak spots on the body and can take advantage of them. An initial hit to the solar plexus created a lot of openings for him. After that, it was pretty much over. Naruto nodded and then looked over at where the Taki ninja were. Their Jonin sensei did not look happy at all. He was most likely mad due to the fact that Fu got into the finals while the other two didn't. After all, it's preposterous that a demon brat get into the finals of the Chunin exams, right? Match 11. Hyuga Shinji of Konoha vs Akamaki Choji of Konoha. Good. About time I get this little play over with, scoffed Shinji as he made his way down to the arena. Choji was reluctantly following. Choji wanted to give it first, not believing he should be here after his little encounter in the second exam, but Asuma bribed him with food, as usual. While Asuma had nothing against Choji, he was just trying to get the young Akamaki heir to understand aspects of being a ninja. Bring it fatty, I'm getting tired of just waiting. What did you just say? Shouted an enraged Choji. No one uses that word around him. Partial multi-size technique, shouted Choji as his arms grew to a rather large size. Choji clapped his hands together, hoping to grab Shinji, who simply ducked underneath his attack and sent a few strikes at Choji's arm, cutting off the chakra flow in them and shrinking the arms back to normal size. Choji stared in shock at his hands, unable to increase them in size. Human bullet tank, the Akamiki said, getting over his initial shock. Choji swelled in size until he was as large as a huge boulder. Shinji just stood his ground as Choji began rolling towards him at high speed. Kaden, shouted Shinji as Choji's attack collided with the Hyuga's absolute defense. Unfortunately for Choji, he was thrown back against the wall from the force of the Kaden. How does Shinji know that? Asked Naruto. He is a main family Hyuga, stated Neji. I know that, but Hinata's way better than him and she doesn't even know that, said Naruto. It's not that Hinata-sama doesn't know it, it's more like she can't use it. It's similar to Lee not being able to use ninjutsu, said Neji, earning a confused look from Naruto. Juken techniques, especially the Kaden are earth-based techniques, while Hinata-sama has wind-based chakra. Wind and earth are two elements that clash with one another and as such will make her learning the Kaden extremely difficult. However, she has her own defense to make up for it, one that suits her so much better, making the Kaden not worthwhile for her to learn. I think I see now, said Naruto. Juken. 8 trigrams 32 palms, shouted Shinji as he quickly made a move on Choji. Choji, shouted the more vocal members of the Konoha 12, although, even Shikamaru joined in. Pathetic weakling. I'm amazed I was able to put up with you for the past week. All you did was talk about food, instead of the test. No wonder we just barely made it, said Shinji. Choji began coughing up blood as medics came to check on his condition. Winner, Hyuga Shinji, announced Darui. Oh yeah, he'd better hope we don't meet in the finals, cause I'm gonna kick his ass, said Naruto. You have to make it to the finals first, Dobi, responded Sasuke. Neji, is all of the Hyuga main branch that brutal? Asked Ino. Sadly, yes. Hinata-sama is the only one who's always been kind and gentle, and as a result has been hated by the main branch for years because of her weakness, as they call it. Uncle, while he has changed, I'd be lying if I said he was never like that, said Neji. Naruto flashed Hinata his signature grin, cheering the girl up a little. Well, speaking of Hyuga, said Naruto, pointing up at the board. Match 12. Hyuga Neji of Konoha vs Karui of Kumo. Well, perhaps fate has smiled upon me today, said Neji, slipping into faded stuck-up prick mode and a tick mark appeared on Naruto's head. You had better not start before fate dictates me slamming a Rasengan up your ass, said Naruto. This caused Neji to chuckle slightly. To him, this was now more of a joke and something he'd used to irritate Naruto every now and then. Naruto was aware it was a bit of a joke as well, but he couldn't help himself. Oh hell no. I forfeit, shouted Karui from the other side of the room, remembering the beating and heart attack Neji gave her last Chunin exam. Boss? Questioned Darui. The Raikage was silent. His temper wasn't really increasing, he was just confused, completely and utterly confused at Karui's sudden withdrawal. Of all people here, the short-tempered redhead was the last one he expected to do what she had just done. Very well. Winner, Hyuga Neji of Konoha, announced Darui. That certainly was dull. Hey guys, what happened? Asked Kiba, slowly making his way back from the infirmary. Let's see. I'm going to kick Shinji's ass, and Neji probably set the record for the shortest match in history, said Naruto. Was Shinji the one who Choji faced? Asked Kiba. A few people nodded. Damn. That would explain why he looked pretty beat up. Now I want to kick his ass as well. HMPH. I'd like to see you try. Replied Shinji, only irritating Kiba to the point where Kurenai and Asuma were struggling to hold him back. Trouble. Shikamaru was interrupted. Finish that word and you'll be eating my fist, growled Tamari. Troublesome, joked Kankuro, only to earn him a hard smack from Temari's fan. Match 13. Tenten of Konoha vs Goyaku of Kiri, shit. Swore Naruto loudly, waking his inhabitant. What is it now? I was talking a nap, growled a grumpy Kyuubi. It's him, said Naruto. He looked over and saw the Kiri Jinchuriki, apparently his name was Goyaku, make his was towards the arena. Goyaku was shooting a look towards Naruto that basically said, "Watch as I kill your friend." Tenten, shouted Naruto, grabbing the weapons expert before she could get down to the arena. What is it, Naruto? I've got a match, said Tenten. No. You've got to forfeit. You're no match against him. He'll kill you, warned Naruto. Your concern is touching, but I can handle myself, replied Tenten. But, said Naruto as he was hushed by Tenten. Why did you do that, Naruto? Asked Lee. That wasn't very youthful. Naruto grinned and gripped the railing as the match began. What do I do? If Tenten continues, she'll get herself killed no matter what. A tricky situation. I'm afraid you may be forced to give up something here. Just do what comes naturally and everything will work out. In the arena, Tenten made the first move, throwing about a dozen kunai towards her opponent. Goyaku didn't even blink as the kunai disintegrated when they got within 5 or 6 feet of him. What? Said Tenten in shock. She got over her initial shock and pulled out the 2 scrolls at her side, placing them in front of her. Fine. Twin Rising Dragon. The scrolls unfurled and spiraled upwards as Tenten jumped up into them and began hurling weapon after weapon at Goyaku. Damn it, swore Naruto from the balcony. Tenten's attack didn't manage a single hit as all her weapons disintegrated from the acid surrounding him before they. Bah. You're not even worth killing. However, I'll be nice and kill you just to piss off Blondie up there, said Goyaku. Ninpo. Breath of death. Goyaku exhaled a dense acidic cloud that quickly enveloped Tenten. She began to cough violently as the acid went to work on her lungs and also her skin. Somehow, Tenten managed to crawl out of the cloud before too much damage was done. Naruto was right, said Tenten, breathing heavily as she coughed up a bit of blood. I forfeit. Darui nodded. Winner, Goyaku. PHFT. Too bad that's not going to help, said Goyaku. He formed what appeared to be a ball of condensed acid in between his hand. Stop. This match it over, ordered Darui. Goyaku wasn't listening. Tenten, shouted a worried team guy. Ninpo. Acid sphere, shouted Goyaku as he shot the condensed ball of acid towards Tenten. The entire room couldn't breathe as what seemed to be Tenten's inevitable death approached. A cry of pain rang out through the dojo as the ball of acid hit something. Tenten opened her eyes to see Naruto standing over her, some weird red chakra cloak over him. Are you, alright? Asked Naruto. Despite having a chakra cloak on him, that acid was concentrated enough to penetrate the cloak and eat away at the clothes, including the famed orange jacket, and some of the flesh on his back. With the presence of Kurama's chakra, his back instantly began healing, but that didn't do anything to stop the shocked looks on a lot of people's faces from around the room. Kurenai-sensei. What's going on? Asked a stunned Kiba. When Kurenai wasn't giving him answers, he turned to the others. That's something for Naruto to tell you and Naruto alone, said Kakashi. So Konoha does in fact have a Jinchuriki, thought the Raikage. And based on his features, I'd say Kyuubi, damn it. The Raikage just watched the scene unfold for the moment. In truth, Konoha having the Kyuubi wasn't much of a secret. It had never been confirmed, but the Raikage had suspected that a Jinchuriki was made when the Yondaime Hokage defeated the Kyuubi, 12 years ago. Truth be told, he wanted to act, he wanted to take Naruto as a prize for Kumo, but the international treaties that surrounded these exams pretty much made Naruto immune to any attempts Kumo would make towards obtaining another Jinchuriki, unless of course Kumo wanted a real war on its hands. It's the same reason why they hadn't attempted to capture the 2 unsealed Byakugans yet. Naruto, what's up with your chakra? Asked Tenten weakly. I'll explain later, said Naruto as his body finished repairing itself. I'm sorry, but I had to give you a cloak, otherwise the regeneration wouldn't have been able to counter the acid in that attack, responded Kurama. I did mention you would be giving up something today, either one of your friends or one of your secrets. Hey, you know me. My friends come first, replied Naruto. Naruto looked over at the fellow Jinchuriki, only to receive a look of pure anger. Once again, Naruto had denied him a kill. That's it, I'm killing something today, you rotten little, shouted Goyaku as he even let his demonic chakra flare. Before he could take another step towards Naruto and Tenten, a large octopus tentacle wrapped around him. The source of the tentacle shocked almost every non-Kumo ninja, except for the other Jinchuriki present. Yo, calm down before I pound you into the ground, Bakayaro Kanayaro, said B. B released Goyaku once he could feel the Rokubi's chakra calm down. As Naruto saw this, he lowered his cloak as well. A few of the Konoha Jonin came down to check up on Tenten. She wasn't as bad as Team 10 was after their encounter, but she still needed treatment. Before the Kumo medics could come out, Sakura had said that she would handle the treatment and Tenten was taken back to the balcony so Sakura could begin to treat her. The next time we meet, brat, I will kill you and then I'll kill your little annoyances of friends, threatened Goyaku. That's not going to happen. No way you'll ever lay a finger on them. That's a promise. Tabeo, replied Naruto. Naruto made his way back up to the balcony as the next fight was announced. Match 14. Yakimaru of Kumo vs Tazakahi of Kumo. When Naruto reached the top of the stairs, the remains of his coat and shirt finally fell off, revealing the seal on his stomach to everyone, and causing Hinata to blush a bit at the sight. So Naruto, what exactly was that? Asked Kiba. Naruto sighed. He knew after acting like that, there would be questions and he would need to give answers. He told them about what really happened on the night of the Kyuubi attack and how the fox was sealed inside him by the Yondaime. Naruto then told them about Jinchurikis and how there were other Jinchurikis in the room, including Goyaku and B. What you just saw back there, was me using the Kyuubi's chakra. It was the only way I, or anyone, could have survived that ball of acid, said Naruto. He looked around at the group around him and saw fewer surprised looks than he had expected. How many of you knew? Asked Kakashi, wanting to know that after seeing their reactions. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Shino, Neji, Shikamaru, Tamari, and Gaara all raised their hand. Back in the academy, I knew something was different about you, Naruto. I finally figured it out about a year before graduation, said Shikamaru. And you didn't care? Asked a hopeful Naruto. While you were a little wild, you never hurt anyone and honestly, it would have just been too troublesome to really care, said Shikamaru, earning a look from Tamari. Shino? Asked Naruto. They told me some time ago, said Shino, holding up a finger with a few insects on it. Does it bother me? No. Why? Because you are my comrade and have given me no reason to look down upon you. Naruto then turned his attention to the people who just learned his secret. Naruto, as far as I'm concerned, you are still as honorable as you have always been. You saved Tenten, so that can only go to show that you are in fact a good guy, said Lee. If it wasn't for you, I'd be dead right now, so thank you Naruto, said Tenten. Choji and I are the same. If you hadn't saved us back in the second exam, we'd be dead, said Ino, with Choji managing a slight nod. Choji was still trying to recover from his battle but found himself unable to move most of his body still. I find it hard to believe, but you've never been bad, replied Kiba. It's a shock that you have a demon sealed inside you, but it sounds like you've only used it for good purposes. I don't have any problems, but I suppose that explains everything. Actually, it's not like he is the Kyuubi, so why did the entire village treat you like it? The village's hatred for the Kyuubi overtook any form of logic and reasoning in the civilian population and they saw Naruto simply as what they feared, explained Kakashi. Plus it didn't help that they didn't understand the basic concepts behind sealing. Most of the shinobi population understood, but I'm sad to say that didn't help anything, and as Naruto proved himself as a shinobi, it's something the shinobi of our village are coming to regret more and more. Damn. I'm sorry Naruto, I never knew, replied Kiba. It's okay. You're not to blame, said Naruto. Demon trash. Everyone's attention turned towards the one who had uttered those two words, and a certain Hyuga found himself bombarded with 17 different blasts of ki, coming from Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Kiba, Shino, Ino, Choji, Shikamaru, Neji, Tenten, Lee, Guy, Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, and Tamari. But the strongest of the blasts came from one individual in particular, Gaara. If you think he's a demon, then allow me to show you what a real demon is, said Gaara, letting some of his sand creep towards Shinji. He wasn't going to let anyone torment his very first friend. Gaara, just stop, please. He's not worth it so long as I have all of your support, said Naruto. Gaara regained control of himself and retreated his sand as he just turned away from Shinji. Now, there is something I need you guys to understand as well, and it's only fair that you know. What exactly happened the night of the Kyuubi attack, wasn't what you all really think. The Kyuubi really isn't evil, he just wanted to be left alone in peace, but was forced to attack the village by some masked man calling himself Uchiha Madara, said Naruto. A few gasps were heard throughout the crowd that had gathered around him, and Kakashi and the rest of Team 7 helped to convince everyone that what Naruto was saying is in fact true and that perhaps the Kyuubi himself was a big misunderstanding. In short, no one's opinions changed with that revelation. The current match finished up with the winner being Yakimaru from Kumo. Match 15. Tamaru of Kiri vs Hikari of Kumo, damn it. I wanna go, shouted Naruto. Why don't you go put a shirt on first, replied Kankuro, only to earn a few glares from the female populace, especially Hinata. Despite being only 12, Naruto did have a rather well-toned body and the beginnings of six-pack abs. To be honest, the Konoha girls, minus Tenten who was still being treated, found themselves resisting the urge to glomp Naruto all of the sudden. Hinata on the other hand, well, she was trying to hide the small trickle of blood coming from her nose after imagining Naruto a few years from now. Naruto reached around for his jacket, picking it up and finally seeing the completely burned away backside of it. Unfortunately, this only made Naruto sad as that was his favorite jacket and the one Hinata had given him a few years ago as a surprise birthday present. Well, look at it this way, Naruto. Perhaps it is time for a small wardrobe change, said Kakashi, placing his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Yeah, no more, kill me now, Orange, joked Kiba. What is it with everyone hating Orange? Questioned Naruto, making everyone laugh. Winner, Hikari of Kumo, announced Darui. Wow, that was quick. Okay, only 2 matches come on, yes. Shouted Naruto. Match 16. Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha vs Shimaru of Kumo. Hey Naruto, look who it is. Now don't hurt him too bad, after all, we're weak and pathetic, right? Sasuke said with a slight hint of sarcasm in his voice. Naruto simply grinned at his rival and brother. Hey, I'll see you in the finals, said Naruto. Before he could go down, Kakashi stopped him for just a second. Don't use the Rasengan or your knives. Kumo already knows you're a Jinchuriki now, the last thing we need is for them to connect those two things to, you know who. Naruto nodded at Kakashi. As Darui announced for the battle to begin, Naruto could already see Shimaru shaking a bit. The revelation of Naruto being a Jinchuriki must have shaken him a little. Hehe, this could be fun, said Kurama. I want to test something, just listen to what I say. Naruto closed his eyes and realized his breathing slightly. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, revealing the red slitted-eyed. As Shimaru was about to make a move, he instantly froze and went wide-eyed as he was hit with a massive wave of ki. Shimaru dropped to his knees, shivering and unable to move as Naruto just walked towards him and held a kunai at his neck. Well, that was rather dull. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto, announced Darui. Up in the stands, Kakashi just chuckled. Wait, what did Naruto do? Asked Ino. Killing intent. And that was only a fraction of what Kakashi would have us train with, said Sasuke. Kakashi would usually use Naruto to train his team with dealing with ki, and he was proud to say that his team could handle most of the Kyuubi's full ki by this point. Man, that was no fun, complained Naruto as he walked back to the balcony. That's the last time I take Furball's advice on starting a fight. Well, if you can't handle the slightest amount of ki, then you don't deserve to be in this exam, said Kakashi. Match 17. Temari of Suna vs Sumira of Kumo, about time. I can't believe I was the last match, again, said Temari. Temari faced her opponent, a Kunoichi from Kumo, and Darui signaled the beginning of the match. Raiden. Electromagnetic murder, shouted Sumira as streams of electricity shot out of her hands and towards Temari. Temari just grinned and pulled her fan from her back, opening it to the third moon. With a single swipe of her fan, a huge gust of wind is created, canceling the lightning jutsu and knocking Sumira back against the wall of the arena with enough force to knock her out. Winner, Temari of Suna, announced Darui. With the matches concluded, everyone who had made it onward lined up in the middle of the room. Overall, the Raikage was not pleased with the outcome of the preliminaries. Only 6 Kumo ninja out of 15 managed to make it to the finals. Suna had 2, Kiri had 1, Taki had 1, and Konoha had 8. This was supposed to be an opportunity to reduce the number of Konoha ninja in the finals, not make them the largest group. Still, for the sake of the announcement of the third round, he did rather well holding himself together. After all was said and done, the Chunin hopefuls now consisted of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Shino, Shinji, Neji, Lee, Gaara, Temari, Fu, Goyaku, Yugito, Yakuro, Yumo, Yakimaru, Hikari, and Omoi. 18 participants meant 9 matches for the first day of fights, and whoever would be capable of fighting after a 3-day resting period would fight in the second round of matches. Now, if each of you will turn your attention to the screen, it will begin listing the pairings for the first round of fights, announced Darui as everyone's attention turned to the screen on the back wall. Match 1 will be Yugito Ni versus Fu. Yugito and Fu both looked at each other. They both knew they were going up against fellow Jinchuriki, so that could make for an interesting fight. Match 2 will be Uzumaki Naruto versus Goyaku, announced Darui. Everyone could feel the tension in the room rise between these two. Looks like you've got a few weeks to live, brat. You'd better be there for your own execution and don't you dare back out or I'll come and hunt you down, said Goyaku. Good, that way I can take you out so you won't hurt any of my friends, replied Naruto. Match 3 will be Rock Lee versus Temari, announced Darui. This would be an interesting match for both of them. Temari knew that if Lee got within close combat, he would easily have the upper hand. And he had the speed to do so as well. If she could keep him at range though, she would be able to win. Match 4 will be Hikari versus Haruno Sakura, announced Darui. Unfortunately, not much was shown in Hikari's preliminary match for Sakura to make any predictions off of. Match 5 will be Hyuga Hinata versus Yumo, announced Darui. 2 taijutsu users against one another, and based off the preliminary matches, Yumo's speed and precision were something to be watched out for. If it wasn't for the lack of a Byakugan, some people were thinking Yumo could be as precise as Neji. One thing Hinata knew was that she would have to get faster over the next few weeks to win this. Match 6 will be Hyuga Neji versus Hyuga Shinji, announced Darui. To be honest, both boys were cursing their luck. Shinji knew Neji was the stronger of the two, and Neji knew that he would lose if Shinji pulled the caged bird seal on him, which he honestly wouldn't put past Shinji to use. Match 7 will be Gaara versus Yakimaru. Both of them remained rather indifferent with the matchup. Match 8 will be Uchiha Sasuke versus Yakuro. Sasuke merely smirked at this. Looks like he would be the one to put the final member of that trio of Kumo ninja in their place. However, he did watch his person's battle, and he did have to admit that Yakuro was obviously much more skilled than the rest of his team. Perhaps Sasuke might get a challenge from one of them after all. Match 9 will be Omoi versus Shino. Both of them seemed rather indifferent about this match. Now, unless you have any other questions, the finals will be held in exactly 4 weeks from now. I strongly suggest you use the time to prepare for your upcoming matches. You know your first opponent, but you will not be told your second opponent until the day of the second match. As such, I recommend preparing for anything and everything, not just a single match. Those of you who are not from Kumogakure, you will be provided a few training grounds. Are there any more questions? Asked Darui. No one asked one. Good, then I will see you in 4 weeks' time. After everyone filed out of the base on the mountain to return to the village, there was a loud crash from behind. Darui turned to see that the wreckage had smashed a rather large hole into the wall. It was impressive though that he had managed to restrain himself that long. Outside, Konoha had gathered all of its ninja, with the Suna trio and Baki tagging along. Certainly has been an interesting week, hasn't it? Asked Kakashi. It'll be late by the time we return to the village. Why don't we go find something to eat and we can call it an early night? We'll start training tomorrow afternoon after you all have had a chance to rest. Upon arriving back in the village, the group of Konoha Suna ninja made a quick stop at the hotel where they had checked in the night before moving on to find an open restaurant. However, Naruto had to go to a clothes store to pick up some sort of new shirt, which sadly wasn't in orange. However, everyone was wishing that it was orange, as Naruto had picked up a shirt with B's face on it and his catchphrase, Bakayaro Kanayaro, on the back, most likely a shirt from B's last Enka concert. It was on their way to some Western-style steakhouse, much to Choji's pleasure, that they saw the green-haired Taki ninja wandering through the village by herself. After some quick questions, the Konoha group soon realized that Fu was left in Kumo to train while the rest of her team returned to Taki. Naruto didn't like the idea of just leaving her hanging for the exam, but there really wasn't much that could be done, except invite her to dinner with the rest of them. Needless to say, Fu was shocked by the invitation, in a good way. When she initially declined, saying that she didn't want to intrude on their night, Shino was the one who insisted that she join them. Minutes passed after their food was ordered and there was a lot of conversation going on between individual parties. While she was quite enjoying herself, Fu couldn't help but feel envious towards Naruto. He had just revealed to a good chunk of his friends that he was a Jinchuriki and yet they still accepted him and laughed with him like nothing had happened. Is there a place where I could be accepted like that? Where people wouldn't care and I could just live a normal life? Thought Fu to herself. She was beginning to think that Konoha was sounding pretty good, until she caught the way Shinji was looking at Naruto. She remembered Naruto saying that he had to work hard for his friends, and it appeared as if this group was the reward for his hard work. Still, she already had 2 friends in Konoha, which was more than she had in Taki, and the way in which this dinner was going, it felt like more than just Naruto and Shino. As dinner arrived, Ino was surprisingly the first one to dig into the massive ribeye steak she ordered. While it was different from the food they were all used to eating back in Konoha, everyone at the table had to admit that the food was delicious. And for Ino's case, she probably could have out-eaten Choji that night. It was like something finally snapped inside her after she also decided to give up her fangirl ways and body was making up for all the years of dieting. Afternoon the next day came and the Konoha genin were asked to meet up for their training assignments. Those who did not make the finals decided to stay and see if they could assist the others in training. However, the most surprising thing about the day had to be Naruto's new attire. Apparently, Hinata had dragged Naruto along shopping for a new outfit, after his got melted off of him when he went to save Tenten. Naruto had gotten rid of orange as the primary color and was now wearing a pair of black pants with matching ninja sandals. He was wearing a black vest with an orange shirt underneath. He still had to have at least some orange in his outfit, which had sleeves that went halfway down the forearm. Naruto had also ditched the gloves in favor of a pair of orange bracers which he scribed the storage seals for his kunai and shuriken on. As the cloth on his headband had been damaged, he also had to have it remounted and now had a long black headband which the forehead protector had been remounted to. Imagine his forehead protector from Shippuden. There was however, one thing he managed to salvage from his old outfit and that was the white Uzumaki swirl which he had on his left shoulder. Naruto had the patch sewn onto the same sleeve of his new shirt. He would have to get the large red Uzumaki swirl sewn on when he returned to Konoha. Who the hell are you and what have you done with Naruto? Asked Kiba. What are you talking about? I am Naruto, replied Naruto. Yeah, but you're not. Orange, shouted Kiba. Was it really that bad? Asked Naruto. Yes, responded just about everyone there. Yo. I see everyone's here, said Kakashi as the 4 Jonin senseis and Anko arrived at the training ground that had been assigned to Konoha. And I see we have a newcomer here. Kakashi pointed straight at Naruto. Not you too, Kakashi-sensei, pouted Naruto. Kakashi merely chuckled at this. Anyways, let's go over the training assignments for all of you for the next few weeks, shall we? Said Kakashi. I've sent word back to Konoha on who made it and requested for certain individuals to come up for some of you. They should be here by the end of the week at the latest. Now, Sasuke, you'll be with me obviously. Fine, replied Sasuke. Sakura, you'll be trained by Kurenai and Kakashi was interrupted as Anko came and gave her new best friend a hug. And Anko. Sadly, Tsunade-sama can't be here until the time of the matches. Besides, medical jutsu won't do you much good at this point in time, so Kurenai will be helping out your genjutsu while Anko helps with the other stuff. Other stuff? Sakura asked with a worried look, receiving the look from Anko. Yes. Naruto, I believe Jiraiya arrived yesterday, I just don't know where he is, said Kakashi. Where's the nearest bathhouse? Asked Naruto. Why would you want to know where the nearest bathhouse is? Asked Neji. Because that's where I'll find Ero Sennin, replied Naruto. At a bathhouse in Kumo. Tehehe, Kumo does indeed have some fine ladies, said a certain white-haired man, perched atop one of the bathhouse buildings. Ika perv, shouted one of the women who happened to notice Jiraiya. Ladies, do not fear. I am the great toad sage of Mount Myoboku. The epitome of manliness, who will swoon any lady off her feet. I am Jiraiya, shouted Jiraiya, making one of his poses on one foot with an open palm outstretched. Apparently, the women in the bath didn't take this very well as they began throwing various buckets and wooden stools at him, knocking him off the building. Unfortunately, the landing wasn't much better and Jiraiya smacked his head against the ground, knocking him unconscious. Back to training. Naruto, you'll be training with Jiraiya in the afternoon, but Asuma here has offered his services to help with your wind manipulation in the mornings, said Kakashi. Really? That's great. Thanks Asuma-sensei, said Naruto. No problem. Now Shinji, your father's on the way here and he'll be taking over your training, said Asuma. Very well, said Shinji. In reality, he was thankful to get away from this group of losers. Lee, you and I will be training our youth together, shouted Guy. Hi. Guy-sensei. I am looking forward to our youth-filled time together, replied Lee. Neji, Hiyashi-sama is on his way too and will be taking over your youthful training, said Guy. Neji merely nodded. Hinata, your father will be training you as well, however you will be working with Asuma in the mornings alongside Naruto on wind manipulation, said Kurenai. Hi, Kurenai-sensei, replied Hinata. She was happy that she'd be working with Naruto some these weeks. Her father had also been growing more satisfied with her training these past months, but the one thing she really needed right now was speed training for her upcoming match. Hopefully Hiyashi would have something to help her out in that. And Shino, your dad is coming up here as well. You and Hinata are welcome to join me and Enko until your respective trainers arrive, said Kurenai. I understand, sensei, replied Shino. My father is the best choice for my training. If there are no more questions, you are all dismissed to your respective trainers, said Kakashi as he took Sasuke off towards some isolated corner. I guess I'd better go find Ero Sennin then, replied Naruto as he made his way to find his perverted teacher. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive at the bathhouse and to see Jiraiya lying unconscious on the ground with a red mark on his face in the shape of a stool. Baka Sennin, sighed Naruto. He then noticed a water balloon not far from Jiraiya. Hey, been a while since I've done this. Naruto performed the first phase of the Rasengan training and popped the water balloon over top Jiraiya, waking the perv with a splash of water. Who are you and what have you done with the Gaki? Asked Jiraiya. What are you talking about, Ero Sennin? Asked Naruto. You're not orange, replied Jiraiya. Not you too, sighed Naruto. I can't believe I'd see the day when you retire that bullseye of a jumpsuit, shouted Jiraiya, jumping for joy. I didn't retire it, it got destroyed in the exams, said a sad Naruto. He and that jumpsuit had been through a lot. Naruto even had a funeral for the jacket last night. Oh yeah. Since we're here, how about a bath and you can fill me in on everything that happened, suggested Jiraiya. Naruto agreed to this. Truth be told, he hadn't had a chance to take a warm relaxing bath since before the exams and the showers at the mountain base only had 4 minutes of hot water at a time. I see, troubling that the Iwa ninja attacked you like that, but I'm glad you and our team came out alright. I'm also sorry you had to go Kyuubi mode to save the Tenten girl. But, it's reassuring to know that all of your friends still accept you, even after that, said Jiraiya. Yeah, I'm glad too and that none of them managed to get killed against that Rokubi Jinchuriki, said Naruto. That definitely is a plus. Still, that just proves that those bunch of brats you hang out with are worthy of being called friends, said Jiraiya. Now, who's this opponent you're facing in the first match? The Rokubi's Jinchuriki, replied Naruto. I see, said Jiraiya. Any thoughts on how you're going to do it? Naruto reached into his bag and pulled out his great-grandfather's books and unsealed the 2 sealing scrolls. Interesting. This one won't come in too much use against that guy, but this one may. You do realize though that these are incredibly complex seals though, said Jiraiya. I know, but I need them if I want to beat this guy, said Naruto. So you're not going to resort to the Kyuubi? Asked Jiraiya. No. As much as Furball is begging me to let him fight, I'm only going to use the Kyuubi chakra that's needed to counter his acid cloak, said Naruto. I don't know, I just feel this is just something I have to do. Good. Well, I guess we should get started. Learning those two seals in a month's time is going to be some task, but you did manage to get the Rasengan down by the start of the last tournament, said Jiraiya. Something then came to his mind. Oh, and I think I've got this new jutsu you like. What are we waiting for then?